Trapped in Trauma Part 1. With these video series, we offer you a trauma loop manual, a facilitation protocol for transforming trauma into identity integration. In this first part, we will examine the question of what trauma actually is within this model. Let's start. Trauma is the lasting emotional response to an event that was physically or emotionally harmful, or life-threatening, which overwhelms a person's ability to cope. It can be the result of a single incident or a series of events and can lead to long-lasting negative effects on a person's physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well-being. We like to remark that not every trauma is as obvious as, for instance, physical or sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment, etc. We like to point out the tremendous importance of what we call the more hidden trauma, mainly during childhood, lack of physical or emotional attention, affection, intimacy. Not being given the opportunity for self-development and discovery, for example a smothered mother, narcissistic parent, a non-emotional safe family environment. We realize these kinds of trauma aspects are highly subjective, nonetheless very real in the perception of the person creating the trauma around these experiences in the past. Still, I'd like to point out with great emphasis, trauma is not the original event itself. Trauma is the re-experienced imagination of the event, activated in the present moment through what we call a trigger. When a trigger occurs, a situation, tone, behavior, or memory, the mind reinstates the stored image of the original experience. This image is felt as if it is happening now, because the emotional body does not distinguish time. And this is an important observation: the emotional body does not feel the difference between past, present, or even future. What it feels is imminent, and it is felt now, and therefore, a feeling or emotion as a consequence of a past trauma feels immediately imminent and urgent, as if the trauma happens again right now. Again, even when the mind knows the trauma is in the past, the emotional body does not know the concept of time, and therefore it feels urgent and threatening right now. Thus, trauma equals memory plus emotional charge, reactivated in the present. You are not responding to now, you are responding to the remembered past projected into now. Any remembrance of the traumatic event or events feels immediate. Subsequently, this remembrance or trigger immediately leads to an imagination reactivation, a stimulus, the trigger or remembrance. This is what recalls the emotional memory stored inside our bodies. Our emotional energy, or solar plexus, evaluates the emotional signal received and it determines, is it safe? In that case, the experience can be processed and integrated. Or, which will often be the case with trauma triggers, it is unsafe, which immediately activates our instinctive survival mode. In trauma, our emotional energy body or the solar plexus has been conditioned to read any reminiscent signal as unsafe even when the present contains no real threat. What happens next? The emotional fork, when the trigger is labeled as unsafe, the energy is routed to the intuition or spleen energy center and activates the well-known survival responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. If it feels safe enough, not fully safe but safe enough by realizing the threat is founded in a past remembrance and not in an actual present threat, the body energy moves upward toward what we call the G energy center, or identity center, where we check the emotional charge with the identity labels we have attached to ourselves. The G energy center is located between the navel and the middle area of the rib cage. It is seen as the center identity gate where the following question is asked when the solar plexus emotional center considers the trigger to be safe enough to proceed this inner path of energy, which is not moving into survival mode immediately. At the G center, a quiet question is asked. Does this emotional experience fit who I believe I am? In unhealed trauma, the answer is, no, this is not me, I cannot handle this, I must avoid or control it. This activates what we call the bugger archetype in us, or the ego defense persona. In healing, the answer becomes, yes, this is part of my lived story. I can hold this. This is where identity updates and integration can occur. Important, trauma can only persist because the solar plexus emotional body response repeats, not safe. But that judgment is not about the present, it is about the past. Trauma is therefore a misinterpretation of present reality based on unfinished emotional memory, maintained by identity rejection. The core insight: trauma is not healed by reliving the past. Trauma is healed when the solar plexus learns safety, and the identity accepts the emotional experience as part of the self, and the masculine returns to support the feminine inside all of us, meaning when we are able to restore emotional safety within our body, so we can support our kind, gentle, compassionate energies, without the need to mistrust or be on guard constantly, afraid something traumatic from the past may repeat itself again in the future. Which is also about redefining who we are, our identity. Often identity is immediately connected to the trauma: I am too much, I am too needy, I am not worthy, I do not belong, I am not capable. These are a few identity labels, immediately derived from the trauma that rules our lives. By reframing and redefining these identity labels, we can see ourselves in a new light. Thus, what is considered as a burden, for example, I am emotionally too much or needy, can be reviewed for what it truly is: a gift. In this case, my emotional intensity gives other people the gift of truth they try to deny. This is how a trauma identity becomes a leader identity, a role model identity, or a guide identity, depending on the person's design. To be continued.